can hear us, tell us when. Oh, we are live now. Amazing, amazing. So, guys, hello. It's a pleasure to have you here. I'm Andre, and I'm the head of admissions at Hayek Global College. And I'm here with Amy Daly Gardner today. And she's from Clark University. She's going to talk about a little bit more about the structure, how it is to study in in the United States, how the system works there. And Amy, it's a pleasure to have you here. I'd like to, would you like to introduce yourself to our audience and to the people?
Great, Andre. Thanks so much for the invitation. I'm really thrilled to be here today. Hi, everyone. As Andre said, I work at Clark University. I oversee all international recruitment at Clark, and excited to be here, excited for the partnership. I've worked in international education my entire career, and have been involved with international students at Clark since 2000. And like I was telling Andre earlier that my first trip to Brazil was in 2005, and I absolutely love it. Love the pão de queijo, and excited for welcoming more Brazilian students to Clark.
Amazing, amazing. And Brazil, you said you like pão de queijo the most, right? Where did sorry, I'm going to ask you, where did you come to when you visited Brazil?
So the first year I came to Sao Paulo and Rio, but I've been to Brasilia several times. I've been to Salvador da Bahia and Campinas. So I think that's it. But I think that's pretty good.
And Brasilia, not yet, right?
Yes, no, I've been to Brasilia several times.
Sorry. You said
That's
Brasilia.
okay.
Okay, so you're already familiar with our climate here, right? Amazing,
Yep.
amazing. So, Amy, I'd like to introduce the program to the people that are watching us, which is the 2+2 program. You were going to explain and give more details about how it works in the United States. But basically, what Hayek is doing is we are bringing to Brazil the structure of a 2+2 undergraduation. Yeah, that is very common in the United States. So the students they will start in Brazil, transfer to Clark, and finish at Clark, especially in those majors that we are partnered with, which are computer science and business, right? And there are other possibilities. Somehow the students they can use some of the credits to maybe analyze in other courses, but this is a detailed pathway that each student is going to take. But basically, there's a possibility with them starting in Hayek and finishing at Clark University. And Amy, would you please tell us a little bit more of how this 2+2 program works in the United States? Because most of the students here, middle schoolers or high schoolers, even parents, they have no idea of how it works in the United States. We don't have such a thing here in Brazil, such a 2+2 transfer program. How it is in the United States in details.
Sure, absolutely. And you're right, Andre. Studying 2 years first and then transferring into a 4-year degree program is quite popular in the United States and has been for many, many years. We have a system of community colleges and other 2-year universities, colleges, and students will start and do an associate's degree those first 2 years. And then usually that's when they're taking courses like their prerequisite courses or their general education courses. They're not necessarily taking their major degree program courses. And then what they do is they transfer those courses to a 4-year institution. And sometimes it's an articulated agreement like we have with Hayek, and sometimes it's not. And then what they do is they finish their final 2 years and earn their bachelor's degree at the end of their 2 years. I think the reason that a lot of students in the United States do it, well, there are a couple of reasons actually. One is it can be less expensive. Studying at, I mean, education in the United States is expensive. It's outrageously expensive. And so if you can start at a community college or a two-year school, like Hayek, you can study 2 years for a much more reasonable amount of money and then transfer those credits to a university in the United States, in this case, Clark. And that saves you a lot of money rather than studying all 4 years at our institution. The other side, too, is that sometimes students don't want to go very far away right away. You know, they're fresh out of high school. They're maybe 17, 18, maybe parents. I'm a mom. I have 4 kids. And with some of them, they just weren't ready to move out of state at that age. And so it's a nice opportunity for students to be able to still start their university education, stay close to home, and do it in an affordable way. I think the great part about our partnership is it is an articulated agreement, and so everything is sort of taken out of, there's no mystery. We've done all of the hard work to map out the courses, and so that it's very clear what courses what we'll give credit for, and so that the students, it's a really easy way of doing this. The other piece that's really great is that Clark also has graduate programs, and so once you finish your bachelor's degree, you are considered an alumnus of our institution, and we have special alumni scholarships. And so if you choose to go on and do a master's degree, say like an MBA, you could get that for 50% off because you're an alumnus of Clark. And so again, if you're looking at it from a way of how to achieve your academic goals in sort of the best financial way and also the quickest way, it's really a great option. I hope that helped, Andre.
It actually helped a lot. And adding to that, I'd like to ask you something that is related to this because, like you said, this is something very popular in the United States. And if you talk to anybody that is in high school, they will know exactly what that means. So this also, this type of programming start to spread throughout the world, right? What's your experience with that? What's your view regarding this? How how are students from other countries, from other parts of the world, interested in going to the United States, and if they know if there are other places that do that, in your experience?
Yeah, in fact, it actually is becoming much more popular worldwide, and I think part of it is that parents don't want to send their 18-year-old kids clear across the world yet. They want their kids to have the opportunity to have a world-class education in the United States and the opportunities that affords, but they're just a little bit uncomfortable sending someone that's fresh out of high school, and so they're I work with many universities and partnerships in India, in China, and in fact, in China, they've been doing this for quite some time. And so I think you'll see more and more of the students across the world opting to do that, right? And so they'll stay in their home country for 2 years or go to, say, maybe a neighboring country, and then complete their 2 years of their studies and then transfer into a program in the United States. Again, I think it sort of gets it allows them to start at home at an affordable price. And then, of course, when we do these agreements, we articulate not only the credit transfer, but also a minimum scholarship as well. And so students that just apply on their own wouldn't have the benefit of that articulated agreement.
Okay, this is true. They if they go by themselves, it's a little bit harder, yeah, even to get scholarships, like you mentioned. So I'd like to you to explain a little bit more of a student that is looking for an education in the United States. Of course, they are going to look for a university, but usually, what are the first steps that the student or the students, they need to take to I don't know, arrange, because in Brazil there are even some details that are not demanded from students when they get into high school. For example, and this is very interesting. In Brazil, it's not necessary to have a portfolio to present to a university, which by itself, it's already something very different for students when they want to enroll at a university in the United States. So let's say that a student here from Brazil, they want to go from Brazil straight to Clark University. They somehow they don't want to stay the 2 years in Brazil and they want to go to Clark. What are the steps they need to take initially? Of course, an overview.
Sure, of course. Well, I think, and we do get students that choose to do that, and that's perfectly fine. But you have to sort of think of the whole application process, right? And there are application requirements that might seem a little strange. English language proficiencies scores. And so we require a minimum score on English language proficiency for students that are coming straight out of high school. We actually don't require SATs, but many schools do. So that's something that you'd have to consider, either the SAT or the ACT. And a little bit of a note on that, Clark has not for a long time required SATs for international students. We really feel that one test on one day is not necessarily the best indication of what kind of student you are going to be at the university. We're more interested in your transcript, the types of courses you took, how you challenged yourself. And so we've been a little bit of an anomaly. I think during the pandemic, a lot of schools stopped accepting or stopped requiring the SAT, but I'm proud to say that we've never required it. So I've always liked that about our institution. But there's usually an essay that you need to write. And so again, unless you're from a high school that has a really strong college counseling team, it might be a little daunting for you to apply to Clark or to any school in the United States, because it's not like applying in your home country. It's not exam based. It's we do something what's called an holistic review, and that means we take all of your components of your application into consideration. And so that can be your transcript, your essay, letters of recommendation. So we're hoping that you'll have a teacher or someone, a counselor that can sort of tell us who you are. We're really interested in what kind of student you'll be. And so I think all of this is wonderful, is great. We actually give a lot of support to students that come that way. But one of the things that the Hayek program with Clark sort of eliminates, you don't have to do the English language, because you're going to be getting English language taught for 2 years. And so it does streamline the process quite a bit for you.
Okay, this is amazing. And it's good to know. Some students, they are actually happy to know that they won't need the SAT, but they have all the context that they need to present, which is amazing. And talking about students' life on campus, I will ask you a question about classes, because it's something that parents, they ask me about. For example, what are the size of the classes? Because Clark, they have the philosophy of elbow teaching, right? So can you talk a little bit more about that and how that, let's say, coziness, yeah, is applied to students in general? Because I think this is a differential too.
Yeah, and I think we're a small institution. We have about 2,300 undergraduate students, and that's by design. We don't want to get much bigger than that, because we feel that students have the best learning environment in a small class size. So I believe our class size is about 21 average right now. But many are much smaller than that. Our faculty to teacher ratio is 1 to 8. And so that's almost unheard of. We try to stay between 1 to 8 and 1 to 10. But again, what that means is for every one faculty member, there are 10 students. And when as compared to, say, a big state university, you'll have an average class size of maybe 100, especially in the intro classes. And so I think, we really feel strongly that we want the students to get to know the faculty member, to the professor, and the professor to get to know the students. And in a small classroom, that is definitely possible. And students are, I'm launching into this. I hope it's not too soon, but I think one of the things that we expect at Clark is that students are active participants in engagement in their education. This is not a passive process. You're not listening to a professor lecture to you for an hour and then leave and go and write an essay about what they said. This is a professor who may give some information in a very relaxed way. There may be a little lecture, but then there will be opportunities and, frankly, responsibility for the students to interact and to maybe ask questions or challenge. Yes, challenge the professor. That's perfectly acceptable and okay in the US, and especially at Clark. So I think it's a really great opportunity for students who want to be engaged. We tell parents, because when we have students that come, we also have parent orientation. We tell them it's really hard for your kids to fall through the cracks because they almost have to hide from us, because we'll know if they're not in class. And it's not that we want to get them in trouble, it's just we want to make sure they're okay, right? Or if they're struggling with the subject matter, the faculty members have office hours and are available to meet with them and to make sure that they stay on track. That's really important.
This is really, really, really important because, like you said, if you have 100 students to one professor, it's going to be hard for this professor to follow up with the students and their needs or his or her needs. So this is very important in when teaching, a group of students. So Hayek, we actually have the same radio here at Hayek. We have like 7 or 8 per professor. So we also adopt this philosophy, at Hayek. And talking also about students' life, would you be able to talk about Worcester? How do you pronounce that? First of all, yeah,
It's
Amy.
Worcester. Well, actually, it depends. If you were born here, it's Worcester, which means there's no R at the end, but it's
Okay.
definitely Worcester. I was born here, but my parents made me speak correctly, and so they wanted to make sure that I use my R's. But it's Worcester, Massachusetts. It's actually the second largest city in Massachusetts. Obviously, probably all of you have heard of Boston. We're really less than an hour away from Boston, so that's where we fly in and out of. It's really easy to get to. But Worcester is a great city in and of itself. It has great concert venues. It has a world-renowned art museum. We also have a minor league baseball stadium that was built probably about 6 years ago. And so I did my research, and there are Brazilian nationals who play in the minor league. There's one, actually, I forget his name. I think it's Eric Cardinho, and he plays for the Toronto Blue Jays, but in their minor league team. And so I think, for students, it's really a great city. There are 10 or 11 other colleges and universities in the area. And so we're filled with students, great restaurants. It's really a thriving and I would say growing area.
In that case, can I ask, how are international students welcomed at Clark? You already said that there are Brazilians. Okay, so I don't know why, but we Brazilians, we love talking to Brazilians outside of Brazil, or I don't know how, but we flock when we are outside of Brazil. So if we find someone that is Brazilian, we connect to the person so fast. This is fascinating. It's something that I find fascinating about Brazil. But how are international students welcomed? Yeah, especially those that come from programs that are similar to Hayek's 2+2, for example.
So there's a couple of ways. We have an Office of Global Engagement and an International Students and Scholars Office. So the ISSO handles all of the, immigration needs. So if, your visa documents, all of that sort of legal compliance stuff. So you don't need to worry about that. They'll work with you on that. But the Office of Global Engagement also supports international students. They do an official orientation program. And they're sort of your home away from home when if you have a question and you don't quite understand, or you're, maybe it's 2 months in and you're feeling like, it's homesick, but you don't know that you're homesick. You can go to the ISSO, you can go to the, OGE. And I know this because I ran that office for 13 years. And so they have a whole team of people that work with students to, make sure that they're getting integrated with other students. If you want to meet Brazilian students and you haven't been able to do that yet, they'll make sure that you get to meet the Brazilian students. If you are missing food from home, one thing I didn't say about Worcester is an immigrant city, and that means we have the best restaurants, and there's at least 3 Brazilian restaurants that I can think of in Worcester area. So if you're craving, yes, they do.
Oh,
Yes,
amazing.
yeah, they do. They do. And so so I think it's really important for us. Clark has always welcomed international students to campus, and it's really important for us that students feel supported culturally, socially, and academically. And so I've talked about the socially and culturally part, but let me talk a little bit about the academic part as well, especially since this is a curated program. So there is an advising team within Clark that actually already knows all about you and about the courses that your students would be taking. And so when you come to Clark, you'll have an academic advisor who will talk to you about what courses you should be choosing and registering for. Just because we have already articulated all of the courses that we'll give you credit for, you still will have some choices. And that sometimes scares people because the US has lots of choices about a lot of different things. And so that's why it's important for you to have an advisor who's going to help you understand what's the best course, how many courses should you take your first semester? What are the courses that you should take? And then they'll check in with you throughout the semester to make sure you're on track. We have a writing center. So if you've never written, or if you're having trouble writing in English, although I'm not worried about that with you all because you'll all have done that for 2 years at Hayek, but still there's a writing center and it's free for students. You just sign up online and you have an appointment with a writing consultant, and that can be anything from you have to write an essay, or you're working on a group project and you have to do a final report. They can proofread it for you and give you ideas, or even like if you have a prompt and you're really struggling, you have writer's block, they can help you try to sort of figure out how to move forward with that project. So again, I think we pride ourselves actually on providing multifaceted support for all of our students, but specifically our international students.
This is great because that's the question that I was going to ask. First of all, having worked with the international background for so long and having known about Hayek's program for some time now, what is your perspective, your view on why Clark established this program, this partnership with Hayek? You already talked about a little bit, but tell us about the students. Talk to the parents that are going to watch us. Why did you establish the partnership with Hayek?
Well, I think for a couple reasons. One is, like I said, Clark has had Brazilian students on campus from high schools in Brazil. I've been to many of the high schools in the major cities. and those our students do great once they come to Clark. Um, Brazilian students have a really strong education at the high school level, and they make really good students at the university level. So that's one. And also, I mean, I'll be honest, we get approached quite frequently from many, many different organizations and agencies to develop these types of programs. And so we don't partner with everyone. And so it took us a while because we wanted to make sure that this was a good partnership and that the Hayek organization is a good fit for Clark. So I'm excited to say that we did the work, we did the lots of work, and we're happy that we're that we're at this point where we can start talking about welcoming students to campus. But I think that we also saw, again, that shift with parents not feeling comfortable. I remember I was in Colombia, and I was meeting with some parents, and they said, why would I send my kid to the United States? It's dangerous. And so we were talking a lot about the concept of safety, and so we thought, okay, well, there's a sense that for many parents in Latin America specifically too, that they didn't want their 18-year-old, their especially daughters, but also sons, to go to the United States right away. And so because we know what wonderful students they are, we're like, we need to be thinking about and finding a partner. And then I think, I'm not sure, honestly, how we met Hayek, but I'm just really glad that we did. And so I guess I think that the needs of the market, of the students and the parents, was part of the impetus. But also, again, because Clark is very committed to having an international student body, and it's important for us to have students from all over the world, so that everyone can learn from each other. And so we look at different ways of making sure that happens.
One question that comes up usually is you talked a little bit about that in the beginning, but I'd like to reinforce that. The options for academic programs, especially under graduation and majors. Can you talk about the options that students might have, the options that they have when transferring from the 2+2? Because this is a question that comes up very frequently when we are talking to parents.
Yep, absolutely. So the current two programs that we have articulated are the Bachelor's of Science in Cybersecurity and the Bachelor of General Studies with a minor in Management. Now, those are all course mapped out, transfer, so you guarantee that if you take the courses that you do at Hayek, then you'll definitely get those courses transferred in at Clark. I will say that I'm excited to say that we're working on some new options as well. Little too soon to reveal them yet, but they will be available to the students from Hayek as well, and maybe even by the time that they would be coming, and enrolling at Clark. So stay tuned on that. But I do also want to mention too that one other great option is, again, that you're going to be an alum of Clark. Once you graduate with your bachelor's degree, you will be an alumnus of our institution, and you could do a master's degree immediately following your bachelor's degree and take advantage of the alumni scholarship. So, for example, if you do the BGS, which is the Bachelor of General Studies with a minor in Management, you could get an MBA for 50% off in your final year. And so I think that these are great opportunities for students. And I think, and also say you're more interested in the cybersecurity or the computer science. We have master's degree in applied artificial intelligence. We have computer science. We have data analytics, project management, which is a STEM designated program. And so I think, all of that really gives your students multiple different pathways to follow for their career.
Okay, and following up with that, talking about their career, students, they have, if they apply themselves, if they study, of course, it depends on them mostly, but how is how is the environment in terms of internships and networking for students?
Great. Well, all of our students need to have an internship and a capstone. So one thing that we are very proud of at Clark is our experiential learning components for our students, both at the undergraduate and the graduate level. Yes, you're coming to learn from the faculty who are phenomenal and brilliant and do great research. But we need you to be able to apply that theory and knowledge in, in the real world. And so that's why we build into the curriculum required experiential learning. So you will have to do an internship. You will have to do a capstone. And a capstone could be a group project that you're working with an organization or a company in Worcester on a real problem that they have, and that you spend the semester researching the problem, working with the company, and then coming up with solutions to solve their problem. That can be interdisciplinary. So maybe there's students that are in the cybersecurity program, working with students that are in the management program, depending on, maybe it's a cybersecurity issue, but we also need a business perspective as well. So you'll see that we model what we're hoping students get out of their education at Clark. And in order to give you support, because we know that you'll arrive on campus not knowing how to get an internship, we do have a career services team that is, it's their job to start working with you from day one to make sure you know how to write a resume. Do you know how to write a resume for the US? Many students don't. So help you write a resume. They'll get you connected to different networks, whether that be alumni networks. Maybe we have professional clubs and competitions. So like we have hackathons. In fact, our graduate team won a national hackathon recently, or placed very high up in the top. So there's opportunities for students, even at the undergraduate level, to get those connections and to build that network. So then when it comes time to apply for internships and then jobs after graduation, you have your resume. You're building your resume, you're building your portfolio per se. They do mock interviews with students because it can be a little scary, especially if English isn't your first language, to be interviewed. And so we don't want that first experience to be in front of a high stakes, job interview. So again, you're right though, Andre, the students do need to take initiative. We do make everything available to them, but this is university, it's not high school. They do need to participate and take advantage of those opportunities. But I'm telling you, there's a lot of them.
That's another thing that I was going to ask about the extracurricular activities which you mentioned, the hackathons. So what kind of clubs, events, or students projects are available for the students? You already told us about, but can you give us more details, because they are interested in those extracurricular activities?
Absolutely. So, it's funny, we're a small institution, but we have so many clubs and organizations. I think we're up to 130. And they could be performance clubs, dance clubs. At one point in time, we actually had a capoeira club. I'm not sure if it's still active, but if we get 4 students that want to create a capoeira club, you can come and do it.
This is amazing.
I'll tell you, whenever I would tell students about that, when I would be in Brazil, they were so shocked. But they were really good too. So they're professional based. There's an International Student Association. There's a Caribbean and African Student Association. There's a LASO, which is a Latin American Student Association. And I guess what I think is the coolest thing about Clark is that you don't need to be Caribbean to join CASA. You don't need to be from India or Pakistan to join the South Asian. If you're interested in that region of the world, everyone welcomes you in. And so, again, you'll see students that are members of different clubs. They have all different types of activities. There are speakers and concerts and performances. And then we also have intramural sports and athletics and club sports. And so If you are interested in playing, football, and I mean your football, Clark doesn't have an American football team, but we do have several real, as I say, football teams. If you're interested in, playing Quidditch, we have a Quidditch team, believe it or not. So yeah, there's
Wow.
lots of opportunities for students to, I mean, again, I know the parents are probably listening and saying, oh, they should be studying. And that, yes, your main purpose for coming to the United States is to study and get an education. But we also find that learning happens outside of the classroom as well. And so we want you to have a balance. And during orientation, you'll hear a lot about make sure that you're balancing everything. Your studies, don't take on too much of your, make sure that you're taking the right number of courses and balance out your extracurricular activities, because that actually will help you in the end. And plus, when you're doing those activities, you're giving your body and your mind a rest, and you're also making great connections.
Exactly. I was surprised when you said the Quidditch. That's interesting. That's nice. And Amy, I think we have covered most, if not all, of the concerns that parents and students they have. Something very interesting that you said is that the when you went to Colombia, they asked about the safety. It's something that it's uh, concerning even here in Brazil. So it's good to know that they will have the structure there. The safety is not a problem to you. It's not a problem to Clark in general. So it's quite different from some most cities here in Brazil. I'm not saying that it's extremely violent here in Brazil, but it's much safer there at Clark. They will be in let's say good hands with good company.
Yeah, and I think, one thing that I'm very transparent when I talk to parents about safety. We are a city, so, should you be walking, in the middle of the night in downtown Worcester? No. But I wouldn't do that in Brasilia by myself. And maybe I can, but I just wouldn't. And, Clark takes safety very seriously. We have throughout campus, we have these blue light phones. So if you see a blue light phone, if say you're walking up by my office, which is sort of, it's still on campus, but it's a little bit on the outskirts of campus, and you just look a little bit uncomfortable. Right outside of my building, there's a blue light with a phone. You pick up the phone, and our campus police, we have a full-fledged police department, and they are trained to work with university college students, and so they're there to protect students. So they'll pick up the phone immediately, and they will be within a minute outside of where you are. I know that there's a lot of conversations about guns in the United States, and we're really happy that Massachusetts has the strictest gun laws in the United States. I personally have never seen a gun on anyone other than a police officer, and so I think. Yes, there's a lot in the media, and yes, the U.S. definitely has an issue with guns, and I hope that we'll address that. But I guess I just want to sort of present, sort of the way it actually is on the ground in Worcester and in Massachusetts. And another point is all of our crime statistics we report on our website, and Worcester's crime statistics are much lower than Boston's. And again, Boston's a much larger city, but I think people don't necessarily think of Boston as being crime ridden, because it's not, right? But Worcester's even less crime ridden than.
This is great. This is great for parents and students. And Amy, would you share? Let's say the students, a student wants to apply to Clark. What are the next steps for the students? Because if they want to apply to Hayek, it's easy just getting to the website. But let's say they want to apply straight to Clark. What should they do?
So it really depends on which program that they're interested in. At the undergraduate level, we have two types of programs, and you can give them my email address. And see, this is one thing that we do really well. I am the recruiter for Latin America, for Brazil, for all of the students, so undergrad and grad. So if you are interested and to come now, or just to talk about Clark, and you're not sure if you would come before or go to Hayek, just please feel free to email me. I'm happy to get on a Zoom call with you and your parents and sort of talk you through the process, and help you make the best decision for you and your family.
Okay, this is great. This is great. And one last detail that I have to add to the audience is, if you want to go through Hayek, the application is composed of two phases. Phase one is similar to the SAT or ACT. We also have an exam here, but we also have a second phase, which is composed of the transcripts, the pitch, the video production that you are going to make about your intentions of going to the United States, and your extracurricular activities. Yeah, we are going to analyze everything as a whole in order to bring you the qualification, yeah, for going through Hayek, because it's necessary for us to know if the student is qualified to even get to Hayek and after to transfer to Clark. Okay, so Amy, I'd like to thank you so much. This was very insightful. It will help us out a lot, help the parents and the students. And would you like to give some I know, advices for parents or
So,
students?
yeah, I think my best probably piece of advice would be, spend the time to really go over all of your options and pick the best option for you. Use all of your resources. These webinars are great. I'm actually coming to Brasilia in August, so hopefully I'll get to meet all of you in person, and that's
You
why I'm
will.
coming. But I think, look at all of your options and try to envision yourself at the school that you're looking at, because I know that, and if you can visit, we'll welcome you to campus, but many international students can't visit. It's just too far for them to travel, and that's okay. But so that's why it's even more important than ever for you to use all of your resources, whether they be virtual or when we come into town. But I want to thank you all for attending, and I'm excited. I'm excited.
Okay. So thank you again, Amy. Thank you a lot for your time, for your insights. It was very, very helpful. And if the students, if you are interested in studying at Clark University or at Hayek, you're going to look after me. I'm the head of admissions here. And after Amy, if you need her email or contact, I'll be happy to provide you with that. Okay?
That's great.
So thank you. Have a great day. And we see you in August here. We are going to churrascaria. You're going to love it. Of course, you already know it, but it's going to be amazing.
That's great. All the pão de queijo I can eat.
All of them. All of it. Thank you,
All right.
Amy.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.